We are living in a world of wonders. Look at the giant machines cutting, carving, and transporting 10-ton loads of minerals in mines. Admire closely the airplanes dedicated to ferrying millions of passengers every day. Marvel at the rockets taking us to the stars. These are just a few small examples of the proud achievements of modern technology in the world today. But are we sure that we are the first ones to discover, research, and manufacture these things? Perhaps in the thousands of years of history, there were civilizations that achieved similar feats. Or during that time, we lost some vital knowledge, a crucial part that we didn't even know we were missing. If this is true, where did this knowledge come from? Let's find the answer together. In the first part of the series, Forgotten History, Chapter 1, Evidence, throughout the course of history, there have been many prosperous civilizations that rose and fell mysteriously. All stories, achievements, or evidence left by these civilizations are related to the deities, closely linked to human life. The deities are often described as creators of all things, controlling the weather, imparting necessary knowledge to humans for their survival and development. Personally, I believe that the deities are just another name for beings that do not come from this earth, entities that commonly appear descending from the skies. And the question that millions of people around the world are currently pondering is whether ancient alien visits are real. If so, who are these people? Where did they come from? Where did they go? Will they return? There is perhaps no civilization more influenced by deities than the ancient Egyptian civilization located in the area 20 miles south of the capital, Cairo. It is the city of the dead, containing the famous stepped pyramid and the resting place of King Djoser. Not famous for its grand and imposing appearance, it is renowned for its history. It is identified as the oldest pyramid among the pyramids in Egypt, with over 4,000 years of history. In 1891, French archaeologists excavated and studied an ancient tomb of a high-ranking official who lived around the 3rd century BC. Among the excavated relics, but mixed in with that pile of antiques, a small wooden model resembling a bird was found, placed next to a scroll inscribed, "I want to fly," as an ordinary object. The artifact was transferred to the Cairo Museum and placed alongside models of birds. The bird model appeared to be a perfectly normal object for decades until 1969, when Dr. Kalin Masiha discovered something very strange inside the model. The bird from this city of the dead had a peculiar feature: its wings. Upon closer inspection, the wings appeared to be quite unusual, not resembling the wings of any bird in the world. Looking closely at the model, one would notice that the wings near the body of the bird were slightly thicker than the wingtips. This was a significant aerodynamic advantage, as both wings were thicker near the body and tapered towards the tip. This was not a coincidence. The design was too ideal for some sort of flying apparatus. Even to this day, we are using this aerodynamically perfect design for modern aircraft, but it didn't stop there. The model also clearly depicted a tail at the rear, and it was evident that birds do not have rudders. The birds themselves were a form of aerodynamic structure, so this tail could not be for a bird. If this was not an aircraft, it was at least some flying device of ancient Egypt. To confirm their suspicions, they conducted an experiment by enlarging the Egyptian bird model 5 times to observe its flight capabilities. The results were astonishing, showing it was a perfect glider, no less impressive than modern gliders. This completely changed our perceptions of what was described about ancient people in books. They were more intelligent and possessed more advanced technology than we had imagined. Over 7,000 kilometers away from Egypt, hidden deep within the ancient forests of Colombia, is a place where many treasure hunters believe the legendary city of gold El Dorado still exists after many centuries. Many treasure seekers flocked to Colombia to search for the legendary treasures. While the Golden City had not shown any signs of being found for so many years, at the beginning of the 20th century, tomb raiders accidentally discovered a 1,500-year-old cemetery right next to the Magdalena River. The cemetery belonged to the Lima culture. Although they couldn't find the whole Golden City, they found hundreds of small gold figurines in this cemetery. Most of these gold figurines were shaped like insects and fish. Nothing notable if among these hundreds of figurines there weren't dozens that resembled modern fighter jets at first glance. They had all the essential parts, from the stabilizing tail to the specific main wing. Certainly, there is nothing in nature that has a similar shape. Even more striking, one object displayed the characteristic swept-back wings, typical of modern fighter jets. No insect in the E. Evolutionary history had wings located under their bodies like this. It is surprising that this perfection came from the indigenous people over 2,000 years ago. The size and proportions were so perfect that when enlarged multiple times. To prove this, in 1997, two German scientists, Alban and Peter Belting, began to find a way to create a real airplane based on the simulation of golden statues, a larger version fully equipped with both a ground engine and an operational engine. Alban shared that this was a rather simple task because we didn't need to add additional details to the model too much. It was already perfect. Immediately after completion, the airplane with the controls set in motion and left the runway as a natural consequence, a highly successful experiment demonstrating that applied science has truly emerged long ago. From two halves of the globe, thousands of kilometers apart, we find examples that prove the understanding of ancient people. Both have perfect aerodynamic shapes and designs. More importantly, they both can fly. It would be foolish to say that this is simply a coincidence. Did the ancients really build these flying machines? Or at least saw them flying, controlled by some entity? Beings that could fly in the sky, often appearing with smoke and fire, shooting through space and disappearing, could only be gods, or simply astronauts from an extraterrestrial civilization. There are many myths from different cultures that describe their deities as sky people. Many people also believe that myths are usually based on something real. Did the ancients imagine gods, or were they just trying to express something they didn't really understand? If you're ready, let your imagination go a little further. The gods, or in other words, the extraterrestrial astronauts, landed here, imparting scientific knowledge and technology to humans. They directly influenced the development process of our ancestors. We bring miracles with our advanced technology, but are these evidences convincing enough to prove that we have been visited by other civilizations in the past, or not? Let's go to India together. It's to unveil the mystery of the gods through undeniable evidence found. India is home to more than 1.2 billion people living together among modern metropolises and crowded slums. It is considered one of the oldest and most ancient civilizations on Earth. Accompanying its longevity are a series of records. the earliest documents. About ancient technologies, many ancient Sanskrit texts describe in detail but differently about the flying machines of the gods. These flying machines, soaring in the sky, are collectively called Vimana. In Sanskrit texts, Vimanas are described as a type of machine using jet engines. Typically, whenever they appear, herds of elephants around run in panic, grass around collapses due to pressure from behind these Vimanas. This description is similar to a spacecraft using jet engines taking off or landing. Some historians simply think these are myths, while others believe these are modern technologies appearing thousands of years ago. The documents not only record information about strange flying machines, but also discuss materials making up Vimana, power supply and energy sources, pilots, and even weapons carried on Vimana. The text Vimana Shastra suggests that Vimanas were powered by pendulums placed in mercury vortexes. Do you know we can do many wonders with mercury? It is a liquid form, conductive, and also a metal. When mercury is put into a rotating pendulum device, we will get electricity, lift effect, anti-gravity effect, and even centrifugal light effect. Ancient texts mention mercury pendulums and drives, or more accurately, a form of what is called flywheel energy storage. However, in reality, flywheel energy storage systems tend to lose energy quickly. To operate in space environment, it must be huge in size. Flywheel energy storage would be more suitable for something underground, helping us store energy and release when needed. To fly up a machine needs something lighter. Perhaps people were trying to describe something else, not mercury, a type of liquid, not from Earth. On another aspect, the appearance of Vimanas could also prove that ancient people had a global transportation network. Even before the time of Columbus, our world today is connected by means of transportation and global communication methods. Almost all distances are somehow erased. It's not just a spatial or geographical connection, but a connection in culture, intellect, and more. For example, a song by Taylor Swift that storms in North America also immediately makes a big noise in Americas, Europe, and Asia. The similarities in architecture, religions, and ancient civilizations also show that they are connected to each other in some special way, through communication methods or global trade routes. In Mexico, there is a mountain named Monte Alban. The top of this mountain was somehow removed, turning it into a mountain with a flat top like a table. On top of the flat surface is an entire ancient city built from monolithic stone. This unusual flatness seems to prepare for the landing and takeoff of Vimanas. In Mexico, do you feel familiar when looking at the drawings on the Nazca Desert or the strange flat peaks in the Osaka Valley of Mexico? Isn't it similar to our runways today? And Vimanas must surely also be machines in the global air transport system. Not only in India, but many other civilizations in Africa and the Middle East also talk about how people move in the air through various means. Forgotten History, Chapter 2. Thank God. Not only in South America or India, but evidence of early human migration or sightings of flying machines is also found in Africa and the Middle East. According to a scripture called the Kebranagas of Ethiopia, their queen, Seba, once received a very special gift, a flying carpet, from the Emperor Solomon of Israel. You may not know that the Kebranagad is the most sacred ancient text for Ethiopians. Inside the text, it is recorded clearly that Emperor Solomon was believed to have access to some sort of flying machine, and because they did not know what it was, the phrase flying carpet was used. Perhaps you are thinking of what I am thinking, the flying carpet of Aladdin. Could it be a product of advanced technology? The Alban also mentions that Emperor Solomon used the flying carpet to visit various places around the world. He had set foot in Tibet, the mountains, or drawn a world map. Let's draw a world map with this magical vehicle at some angle. Is there any connection between the map of Emperor Solomon, Mong, and other ancient maps that have been found? Of course there is. These maps show us that the world is not like today. It is more like the last ice age. This is hard to explain logically. You should go on Google and search for the Oranges map or the Mercator map. Don't be too surprised when they show a very detailed and accurate part of Antarctica from a few hundred years ago before explorers set foot there. Mentioning ancient texts and ignoring the Bible is a big omission. There are many stories full of implications about an unidentified flying object. In the book of Ezekiel, the flying vehicle is a structure with wheels within wheels and is operated by angels. Usually, biblical historians think of terrifying hostile forces confronting Israel through the image Ezekiel describes. It's not wrong, just something doesn't quite make sense here. In the description, you realize that there is no hint about how the flying vehicle moves due to any thrust or pull force. Only when you put the word angel in quotes and know that it refers to a source of energy from heaven does everything become miraculous. At this point, the machine has more characteristics of a spaceship. When Ezekiel encounters something, he immediately kneels down, trembling and terrified, and then from within God's halo, a creature in shiny metallic clothing steps down. Isn't this a scene of a spaceship with astronauts in protective clothing landing? While ancient texts, legends, and stories often lead us to rather vague and difficult to explain hypotheses, tangible evidence brings much more clarity about our past. Have you ever wondered how ancient people moved, cut, and built massive structures with stones weighing hundreds of tons? Even with current machinery and technology, it's challenging for engineers to rebuild a similar structure. Archaeologists insist that ancient people used axes, chisels, and copper wires to cut stones and then transported them with sledges, wheels, and planes. Personally, I believe that building these great structures from such simple machines is completely impossible. Ancient people needed another technology, a technology far beyond us now. Anyone among us has at least once heard or seen the Giza Pyramid in their life, a true wonder of the ancient world made up of countless neatly stacked stones. But if you ever set foot in Giza, you will see that there is not only the pyramid here, but also a place that researchers call the underground temple. And guess how they were built? People built underground temples with stones weighing hundreds of tons. You didn't hear wrong, hundreds of tons. To make it easier to visualize, 100 tons is equivalent to about 100 small cars. Scientists have been diligently searching for an answer to the question, how did the Egyptians move these stones? But they forgot another question. Why did they have to use such large stones? If you have a problem to solve, you would want to find the fastest and easiest way to handle it. The Egyptians had smaller stones. They could also cut stones, as archaeologists say. So why did they use large stones that are hard to imagine? There is only one reason to explain this, simply because they felt there was no difficulty in lifting several hundred tons. Perhaps with the technology that the Egyptians held in their hands, they were far ahead of us many years ago. Of course, those who believe in extraterrestrial intervention in ancient times do not fully assert that these great structures were built by extraterrestrials. Perhaps our ancestors were truly capable of absorbing and being transferred many advanced technologies, more modern than their descendants today. There is a very concise and succinct record of how to transport these giant stones as follows. People take the stone from the quarry, then the masters, as the ancient Egyptians called, sprinkle something white on the stone. Then they sit on top and give a gentle push, and the hundreds of tons of stone move as if by magic. It can't be magic, it's technology. It's like anti-gravity technology today that we are researching. The mystery of ancient technology is not only in stone transportation, but also in extraordinary craftsmanship. In the largest stone workshops in the world today, we need many devices, cutting and grinding machines to shape hard stones. The most common are machine-assisted tools such as diamond-coated wires, polishing machines, etc. However, even with all such machinery, no place has been able to reproduce what ancient civilization did thousands of years ago. The precise stone-cutting technique, almost absolute, is undeniable evidence of the presence of extraterrestrial technology. Once again, returning to the Bible, you must have known about the escape from Egypt of the Israelites. How did the Israelites survive to find their promised land? In Egypt, the Israelites were treated brutally, no different from slaves. However, later around the 14th century, pharaohs suddenly feared the rapid population explosion in the Israeli community. The order to kill all newborns of Israel was issued under dire circumstances. A mother, in an effort to save her pitiful newborn, put it into a basket and let it float down the Nile River. Then the baby was picked up by Pharaoh's royal family and named Moses. By now, some of you may have recognized the leader of Israel, right? Over time, Moses grew up, discovered his identity. He demanded Pharaoh to free Israel. The pharaohs obviously did not accept this. Moses had to lead his people to flee Egypt. The group crossed the Red Sea into Sinai Desert. But God poured out his wrath on Israel for idol worship. He forced them to wander in the desert for 40 years before being allowed to advance into the Promised Land. The Bible says that during those 40 years, all Israelis were fed by only one food, saucy-colored manna, but what manna really is no one knows exactly. It is a kind of cereal, a kind of abundant food that God bestows or can be more easily understood as a product of a modern food processing machine. When Israel decided to flee Egypt and head for the Promised Land, surely among those people there were not a few women and children. There was no food preparation enough to meet everyone's needs for decades like that. When God saw this, he intervened and sent manna from heaven down to save his people. It seems that a kind of food grain was scattered by God into the desert. Israelis had to collect them for meals during the day and also for subsequent days. Specifically on Friday, they had to collect double because Saturday is Sabbath. Those grains did not fall down. All things about manna in Israeli Bible just stop at an unclear concept. No one has enough basis to guess exactly what manna is. However, another ancient text provides a lot of valuable information about manna. Torah book, a compilation of religious interpretations of the Torah, was written in the 13th century. The book refers to the Creator who provided manna. So is the Creator a human god or a machine? Details in the book talk about strange faces and brains of unusual size connected to each other through tubes. Next to them are many unusual light streams, unlike any natural light. Honestly, if this is a description of God, it seems a bit unreasonable. From a modern perspective, this image is not necessarily God. A machine would be more reasonable when placed next to these descriptions. To prove this point, two electrical engineers, George Shashson and Rootney, have verified it themselves by creating a manna machine based on ancient descriptions. Basically, When the machine is created, it has an air intake to suck what is called the breath of life. After the air enters the brain of God, it acts as a condensation point. Then water vapor is incorporated into the cultivation process to create some kind of energy like a strong laser beam, helping to accelerate growth. Of course, the machine needs energy to operate. It is very likely that energy comes from a weak nuclear reactor, creating both heat and light, because there is no more suitable energy source than nuclear energy to maintain machinery for decades. Suppose the Manna machine is real. It is indeed a dangerous machine, because everyone understands how harmful radiation from nuclear reactions can be to humans. To make the machine operate normally, something needs to protect the reactor and supply it with raw materials. Coincidentally, the holy bed in the Bible has many suitable characteristics. We have many implications about the holy bed in the Bible that anyone who does not know how to operate and dares to approach the bed must pay with death. Many people, after touching the bed, have their bodies severely destroyed. They lose hair and nails. Their skin peels off. Based on this detail, it does not exclude the possibility that this phenomenon is a form of radiation poisoning. The holy bed contained an extraterrestrial device that provided energy for the food-producing machine, feeding Israel wandering in the desert for 40 years. Returning to the strange food above, according to what has been reproduced, manna is likely rich, nutritious algae, or also known as small algae. Another piece of evidence from today's world supports this hypothesis. The food problem of today's astronauts has been solved when algae are successfully cultivated. NASA once researched this issue in the 70s of last century. Results show that human life only needs algae to sustain and does not need anything else added. If modern astronauts can do it, why can't Israel? By now, many of you may have forgotten details about Sabbath day. Why every week, once those manna grains no longer fall down? The answer is very simple. Because it is time to clean up the machine. It needs to be maintained and supplied with raw materials and cleaned every week. Regardless of what the real answer is, Israel was extraordinary with a 40-year journey in the desert. We have gone through absolutely precise cuts on granite stone, global traffic network, ancient aircraft, and strange food of Israel. What energy source helped ancient world exploit and operate these technologies? The answer for a huge energy source also comes from a huge construction, the Great Pyramid of Giza, up to 143.5 feet high for over 4,400 years. No human construction has surpassed this height until 1889, when Eiffel Tower was born. Height record was broken. There are many different pyramids in the world. Most of them carry many drawings on them, ancient texts about why pyramids were built. Surprisingly, Giza doesn't have a single tool mark or carved or chiseled any figure inside. No one can explain. Giza was born with what purpose the interior design has no meaning at all. According to our way of thinking, you only find narrow paths to the point where you have to bend down to move, then suddenly crawl out. A 9 meters high corridor, a few rooms inside, made entirely of granite stone. While 900 kilometers around the area, there is no granite stone. Egyptologists believe in the burial function of the pharaohs of the pyramid. Even though no one has ever found a pharaoh's mummy, not yet building a massive construction to bury the kings. Is it too ostentatious? This is no different from invite tomb robbers from everywhere to come. There are also hypotheses pointing out the pyramid is actually an ancient power plant. To understand this issue, we need to understand about the wireless power tower of the great scientist Nikola Tesla. He considers the Earth as a pole in a capacitor, the ionosphere in the atmosphere 80 to 800 km from the Earth, forming the second pole. Recent measurements show that the radial voltage between these two poles is about 400,000 valve. If it can be controlled and exploit the discharge between these two poles, then we will have an endless source of energy. This is also similar to wanting to control lightning bolts in a thunderstorm. Based on this principle, Tesla said, his invention could provide free energy for anyone, with unlimited levels anywhere on Earth. In 1899, Tesla said, "I finally, too successful, in creating a discharge whose power far exceeds that of thunderbolt." Tesla believes that with the construction of wireless power towers, people anywhere in the world can just plug a conductor of any device into the ground and adjust the frequency to resonate with the frequency of the power tower, can get electricity in 1901 from funding sources to build a transatlantic communication tower of billionaire MP Morgan Nikola Tesla. Instead of building a communication tower system, built a wireless power tower named Wardenclyffe on Long Island, New York. To implement his idea, Wardenclyffe Tower is also believed to be built on layers of water-absorbing rock rich in negative ions. Source, it has the shape of a pyramid. With 8 edges on top is a half-sphere block. To accumulate negative from below foot, the tower will move up and accumulate on top of the ball. Tesla uses a transformer to create high voltage to stimulate the discharge process of the tower. On many nights in 1903, New Yorkers saw Wardenclyffe Tower emit giant artificial lightning bolts stretching for tens of kilometers. They illuminate the sky brightly to the point where people on ships in the Atlantic can read newspapers. At night, waves created from my energy generators will be the largest energy wells on the planet. Nikola Tesla said the deployment process of Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower was unfinished when it was stopped funding. When MP Morgan discovered Tesla's real intention, however, he still continued quietly. Conducting his experiments at this tower, similar to the project on Giza Pyramid, completely qualified to become a power plant. The outer layer of pyramid is made from white limestone tufa, does not contain magnesium content, making it have good insulation properties from there, preventing internal electrical energy leaking out. Moreover, stone blocks are tightly arranged so that even a razor blade cannot penetrate this sophisticated insulation property. Allows ancient Egyptians completely control the electric current generated inside pyramid. Not only that, the inside of pyramid, using another type of limestone, contains small amounts of quartz crystals and metals, 2 important components optimizing electrical transmission. In addition, tunnels built inside pyramid are made from granite with slight radioactivity. Allowing the ionization of the air inside this feature makes the pyramid like an electrical cable with an inner conductor and an outer insulator. The entire Giza Pyramid is built on layers of limestone, and the space between them contains a large amount of water. When pushing groundwater to the surface, these water-absorbing rock layers have the ability to transmit electrical energy upwards. Specifically, the large flow of the Nile River, when passing through these rock holes, will have the ability to create an electric current called a physical current. The tunnels inside the Giza Pyramid operate like granite conductors charged by physical currents. This means that, with the materials used and the special architecture of the pyramid, the electromagnetic field is formed from deep below the pyramid, transmitted upwards. People believe that in the distant past, a device with very high conductivity, possibly gold, was placed on top of the pyramid, where today there is only a strange-looking void. From the top of the pyramid, electricity is wirelessly transmitted to high towers built around the pyramid to supply electricity to places. Up to here, I suddenly have a question. Today's proud technologies, have they flooded all over the world from thousands of years ago? Chapter 3. The Missing History. Guests come to visit. I believe that for those who are passionate about UFOs, Roswell is the first name that pops into their heads whenever this topic is mentioned. This is a small town in the state of New Mexico, USA. The tranquility of this small town was completely shattered in 1947 when a farmer reported to the authorities about a spaceship that had exploded and fallen right on his farm. Very quickly, agencies from the press, police, FBI, and military were all present to verify the incident. A few weeks later, surprisingly, a press release confirming the appearance of an extraterrestrial spaceship was issued. However, for some inexplicable reason, just one day later, the military completely turned their backs on the press release they had just issued. They corrected it by saying that what was found was simply a weather balloon that had fallen. Despite their best efforts to hide it, the contradictions from the US military quickly caused a global uproar. The town of Roswell quickly became famous and became a popular keyword in many conversations. Gradually, people assumed that mentioning Roswell meant mentioning a visit from a UFO. In hundreds of random surveys conducted, more than half of the people asked believed that aliens had visited Earth in the past or are still visiting Earth every day. What has made so many people believe in this hypothesis? The universe is too vast and dangerous and certainly far beyond human understanding. The Earth has been forming and evolving for 4.6 billion years to this day. In those 4.6 billion years, the period of hundreds of thousands of years since humans appeared is almost negligible, and it is naive to think that we are unique in this long chain of time. In 1969, when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon, our concept of the universe changed forever. This event raised a new question. If we can travel to other planets, why can't other creatures in the universe? Here, more than 2,000 years ago, was once the cultural and religious capital of the Nazca people. However, around 500 AD, the Nazca people mysteriously disappeared in some way. Kawachi then also fell into ruins and desolation. Like many other ruins, this ancient capital gradually became a place for archaeologists and anthropologists to explore and research. In 1910, anthropologist Alex Hagrica set foot in Peru to delve deeper into the ancient Nazca civilization. In an excavation, he found the most shocking things he had ever seen in his research career. These were strange skull boxes, much larger and longer than humans today. Where did they come from? Why were they there? And are they human skulls? It's clear to anyone that these skulls look very strange. I want to say that looking at it, exactly, it looks very much like an alien. However, on another aspect, some people argue that this is the result of a skull deformation ritual which is well known in the ancient world. The process of deforming skulls was also meticulously recorded by explorer Jogos Wafford in 1870 during his expedition to Congo. He had the opportunity to interact with the Mambetu tribe, who often performed skull-binding rituals to change human skull shape by wrapping cloth around children's skulls, then pressing and tying tightly as they grew up. Their skulls became more protruding and elongated towards the back. In some cases individually, skulls can be twice as long and large as normal size. But why did they have to do this? In my opinion, this action is because they think that people with longer and larger skulls possess superior intelligence compared to others, or in other words, they are trying to make themselves look like a higher creature they have contact with. It seems like ancient people have a misunderstanding about the intelligence of extraterrestrial visitors. We must admit to each other that there have been many efforts to describe the shape of aliens. The most common feature that is most widely accepted is about the head being longer than normal, grey skin shorter than humans, along with eyes that are just black. Returning to ancient Egypt, some convincing images of long, abnormal heads were found. Even more so, these are images related to the Pharaoh, the most controversial figure in history. Could he also be trying to make himself look like aliens, or simply he is not imitating anyone at all? He is one of them, in Egypt. Before people settled along the Green Nile River, they told each other about an era called the Dawn of Time. The legend recounts that this was the time when the gods from the celestial sphere descended to Earth on a flying boat. From mud and water, they magically turned into a whole new kingdom. In ancient Egyptian language, God means netiro, which means spirit from the sky. They are very adamant, affirming about the event that their gods descended from celestial spheres. You may not know that Osiris and his wife, who is also his sister, Isis, are both gods from above. In the story told by Egyptians, Osiris is identified through the constellation Orion, and Isis is identified through the star Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky. Notably here, inside the constellation Orion, there is an area called Star Nursery. Many stars in our galaxy are born from this area. So what makes Egyptians really believe that the gods they worship originate from these constellations? Many pieces of evidence around the world show us that ancient civilizations possess astonishing knowledge about astronomy, including knowledge from stars, planets, movement of celestials, were descendants of Osiris. This implies that pharaohs are also gods among countless gods. He is Akhenaten, the pharaoh with a long head that I mentioned earlier. The myth still records that he is a descendant of those gods who came to Earth from the dawn of time. Akhenaten ascended to the throne in 1352 BC, becoming the 10th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. He immediately introduced many radical religious reforms, including banning propagation or mentioning polytheism. All images of previous gods had to be erased. He only allowed one symbol representing the sun to exist. You and even we all wonder why Akhenaten did so. Poetic texts written about him later said, "A creature came to visit and said, 'This is subconscious way. I am your god.'" That creature was known as Aten, and Akhenaten also claimed himself as a descendant of Aten. Later during his reign, he issued many more reforms related to culture and art, including describing his appearance before Akhenaten appeared. The most important criterion when describing an Egyptian king was broad shoulders and thin waist, but Akhenaten was completely opposite. He wanted his image to be as truthful as possible. Although his image seemed a bit unusual, when standing in front of an Akhenaten statue, everyone recognizes his unusual appearance with an intersex form, half male, half female, plus a long deformed head, sagging belly, concave chest, completely contrary to images of previous kings. Why did such a respectable pharaoh have such a deformed body? Could it be due to genetic mutation? I believe in a bolder idea. He is a hybrid creature between a human and an extraterrestrial. After 17 years of Akhenaten's rule, the sun temples built not long ago were destroyed, and his image was deliberately erased. Egypt quickly returned to its original belief, which is polytheism. Are the Egyptian people trying to hide his physical origin? In 1907, the real mummy of Akhenaten was found by British archaeologist Edward Aston. When witnessing the remains firsthand, one can definitely affirm that Akhenaten has a much longer skull than normal. The successor to Akhenaten is his son, the most famous pharaoh of all time. Tutankhamun also has a long skull, like his father. If mentioning extraterrestrial creatures landing on Earth, gods descending from the sky, then one cannot fail to mention the Enoma Alice legend of the Babylonians, appearing from the 7th century BC. The first ancient document was discovered in 1849 by a British archaeologist when he excavated the library ruins. The text recounts the process of creating the first humans by an extraterrestrial creature named Anunnaki. In ancient Sumerian documents, we find descriptions of creatures descending from the sky, also known as Anunnaki. It clearly writes, "These are creatures descending on flying vehicles." Not only are they stories in words, but also statues and carvings. Therefore, it would be extremely interesting if we realize that these creatures look like today's astronauts. The carving also clearly shows these people wearing watches, carrying tubes and helmets. A similar theme is also found in Greek and Roman mythology, still stories recounting contact with aliens in different ways. Both of these cultures have a strong belief in powerful gods living in heaven who often interact with humans, the most common example being Zeus and other gods on Mount Olympus. They bring advanced scientific civilization, but also have very human characteristics, such as seducing women with sexual desire and having many children before returning to heaven. The divine mating with humans is very common in Greek mythology. The supreme god, Zeus, or incarnate mating with mortals, then gave birth to demigods Hercules or Helen of Troy, who are either stunning beauties or world champion strongmen. In other words, demigods carry genes of a species superior to humans. According to a similar viewpoint with Akhenaten, demigods are also products between aliens and humans. There is a lot of evidence showing that we are not alone in the universe. Civilizations on Earth have been interacting with other civilizations for a long time. Through many periods, belief in interaction between humans and extraterrestrial creatures is also the origin of many religions. According to Genesis in the Bible, God created the first two people, Adam and Eve. The Bible also has passages talking about strange interactions between strange creatures and humans. They descended from heaven, mated with humans, and gave birth to different individuals like giant Goliath. Explaining stories in the Bible has led to an endless debate. If ancient astronaut theory is correct, then we raise another question: who are they really? Let's use modern physics, astronomy, and advanced biology today to lift this veil of mystery. On March 18, 1965, Soviet astronaut Alexei Leonov stepped out of spacecraft Voskhod 2 and became the first person to walk in space. He walked outside the spacecraft for 12 minutes, 8 seconds before returning. Outside the different vacuum environment, Leonov's life depended on protective clothing. Humans definitely need protective clothing to survive in space. So about extraterrestrial creatures, when traveling to Earth, do they need such protective suits? The answer is, of course, yes. Many wall paintings, statues, and carvings show us this. When we go to another planet, we still need protective suits to survive. Who can be sure that those creatures can breathe normally in the atmosphere of this Earth? Why do images of ancient astronauts look like today's astronauts? Is there a possibility that they are also like humans, or they also come from a planet like Earth? There is a very reasonable theory to explain this. It is the theory of panspermia. Simply understood, panspermia believes that life originates from a specific place and then spreads elsewhere. In the space between stars, there exist molecules which are the basic elements that make up life. There are many ways for panspermia to originate from here and move to another place. For example, if panspermia originates on Mars, it could come to Earth and start life on the blue planet. 3.6 billion years ago, Mars was warm and humid just like Earth today. Biologists believe that because Mars cools faster than other planets, life could have formed here first. Mars is a heavy candidate when it comes to the origin of life. Fragments of Mars often fly towards Earth, after breaking away from a collision. It's hard to know if it brought any seeds of life to Earth or not. In August 1996, a group of scientists made a world-shaking statement. They found a Martian meteorite in the South Pole containing evidence of fossilized life. The stone shows the presence of carbonaceous microspheres found in microbial excretions. It seems that Earth is no longer alone. We have really found another form of life originating from another planet close to us. Astrobiologists are conducting research on the origin and evolution of life in the universe, including the possibility that life on Earth originates from space. Life has landed on Earth from outer space. Is it random or is it sent intentionally? British geneticist Francis Crick, who discovered the structure of DNA in humans in 1953, during the 60s of last century, he became the proponent of panspermia theory and took it to a new level with the idea of directed panspermia. Crick's hypothesis suggests that somewhere far away, on the other side of the galaxy, there was a civilization of highly intelligent creatures. They realized their planet was on the brink of destruction. For some reason, all life on their planet would be destroyed. So if it's a high-intelligence civilization, what would they do in this situation? First, they try to find a way out, then find a way to preserve life for them, for their descendants. Later, who knows, among countless planets, they found Earth is the most suitable place to occupy. This explains why ancient astronauts look like humans. So much, according to me, it's not absurd. When referring to the possibility of intervention by ancient astronauts into the origin of life on Earth over thousands of years, all efforts to depict aliens have led to the same result. They have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, fingers, and head like us. According to biological theory, this body shape is called bilateral symmetry. In 2006, genetic researchers at California University discovered an area in the genome called HAMOD. It only exists in humans. Scientists believe that HAMOD plays a crucial role in high-level development in human brain. That's also why we are different from other animal species. This special mutation surely cannot be born by chance. So far, we have only grasped 5% of information contained in DNA. Suppose one day humanity has discovered all the information in its own DNA. We will see cosmic creatures that have influenced human evolution. There are still too many mysteries revolving around the theory of ancient astronauts that need to be answered. Their arrival on Earth gave rise to religions. Appearing in many cultures, they brought different characteristics, but also strangely similar to humans. The more we learn about this issue, the more new questions arise. Moreover, we will continue to search, continue to ask questions until the truth is revealed. Chapter 4: The Missing History. The Pit Stop. When you step out onto the street and ask someone about a place they consider to be the most mysterious and infamous in the world, I bet that 7 out of 10 people would answer the Bermuda Triangle, a region located between Miami, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. It spans more than 1,200 square kilometers. It has given scientists around the world a headache in explaining the strange phenomena that occur there. Here, experienced sailors, prestigious naval commanders, and even oceanographers can only shake their heads in bewilderment at this strange triangle. Stories about unusual plane disappearances, strange lights seen, are reported every day. There are even completely empty ships that look perfectly fine. There are no signs of struggle, yet the crew has disappeared. These are all true stories, clearly recorded and verified by various agencies. If we call this a supernatural image, surely many people would agree, but personally, I believe these are just things we have never seen before. What causes ships, planes, crews to disappear without a trace? Why do all electronic devices in aviation and maritime automatically change their routes or stop working? In fact, the history of the Bermuda Triangle is much older than what we usually hear. From the first exploratory voyages, sailors witnessed many strange sights. The perception of the Bermuda Triangle is believed to originate from one of the greatest explorers in history. Christopher Columbus, in his expedition, along with an experienced sailor who was a pilot, wrote in their diary during their exploration to the New World about going to a certain area where the compass suddenly stopped working. The night after that, they also recorded seeing a large fireball flying over the ocean. The weather became unusual. Occasionally, there would be some light beams that could not be explained. Perhaps you are thinking, like me, that Columbus and his expedition went to the Bermuda Triangle. This story shows that Bermuda is not a myth woven and created by modern people, but has existed for a long time. Nearly 500 years after Christopher Columbus's exploration, on December 5, 1945, the US military first witnessed the strange and terrifying things that Bermuda brought. At 2 p.m. that day, 5 planes carrying torpedoes took off from a base in Florida as part of regular training, but disappeared suddenly after just 2 hours of takeoff. The Navy could not sit still with such a big incident. They immediately dispatched a rescue plane to search for the missing aircraft, but then the rescue plane also disappeared for no reason. All 6 planes, piloted by some of the most experienced pilots in the military, disappeared into oblivion. This made everyone astonished. We have modern technology from radar to radio, so how could an entire squadron disappear into thin air like that? The question posed is, where did they go? Everything happened as if they decided to leave us and follow something else. Specifically, what they followed remains forever a mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. Fortunately, we have many living witnesses who returned from Bermuda to tell about its mysteries. American pilot Bruce Gernon is one of the few people who returned from Bermuda. In 1970, he flew with his father and a friend from Bahamas to Florida. He described his flight as follows. He saw a strange cloud ahead of the plane's nose when he got a little closer. Gernon guessed that the clouds were rolling into an indefinite tunnel shape. Initially, the entrance to the tunnel was very large, but then it began to narrow towards the end. As the pilot continued to advance into the clouds, the most astonishing event of his life occurred. The clouds rolled back and spiraled into grooves like gun barrels. The plane immediately encountered electrical and engine problems. Meanwhile, a dense, yellowish-gray fog surrounded Gardner's plane. As he escaped from the strange cloud, he immediately called Miami Air Traffic Control, but they couldn't see his plane on the radar screen. About 3 minutes after losing contact with air traffic control, Gardner was delighted to catch a signal again. They said he had flown out of Miami. Unbelievably, Gardner had left Miami in just over 33 minutes at a normal speed. According to calculations, it should take more than an hour for the aircraft to leave Miami. Could there be a warp in time and space occurring inside that strange cloud? And is there any possibility for the hypothesis that extraterrestrial visitors used this path to reach Earth? According to Albert Einstein, the greatest scientist of the 20th century and author of the theory of relativity, it is entirely possible. According to Einstein's theory, we can use gravity to bend space as we wish. Alien spacecraft may have absorbed energy from the Bermuda Triangle, creating an energy explosion sufficient to bend space, combined with some kind of particle that takes them where they need to go. Since wormholes, also known as shortcuts through spatio-temporal, were theoretically announced, we know they can exist everywhere in the universe. It does not exclude the possibility that they exist in certain areas. especially on Earth. Many other reports about the Bermuda Triangle are related to an illusion or some undefined cloud interfering with the space-time of objects. With strange disappearances and a plethora of UFO information appearing, there's no reason not to be skeptical about this place. If aliens really used this gate to come to us, could we also use this gate to visit them? If Bermuda is a real space gate, there must be similar places. Heading south, this is a desert area near Bolson de Mapimi in Durango State, Mexico, stretching over 400 miles of rugged hot desert. This area is known by locals as Zona del Silencio, meaning silent zone. This place is famous for many strange occurrences. Suppose you come here with a phone. It would surely be useless. As soon as you enter the silent zone, all phone signals disappear. Radios and compasses will also become useless. In this place, everything is strange. You can see unusual stones everywhere. Mutated animals run across your field of vision. There's also an itching sensation when you step into that area. The silent zone was first discovered in 1930 by Francisco Sarambia, when he noticed his radio stopped working when flying over this area. The silent zone lies between latitude 26 and latitude 28. If you draw a straight line through the position of the silent zone, you will realize it also connects with the Bermuda Triangle and the Egyptian pyramids. Surely this is not random. It is a calculated connection. One of the most famous strange cases occurred in the silent zone on July 11th, 1970. In this year, people started paying more attention and began researching and investigating this land after Athena's rocket from America, launched from Washi's missile base near New Mexico, inexplicably disappeared. According to plans laid out, the rocket was programmed to land about 1,126 kilometers away. The strange thing is that this rocket flew thousands of kilometers past Washian's range to head towards Mexico's silent zone. US military experts believe Athena not only deviated, but deviated too far, as if being pulled by some force, towards this mysterious area, because the rocket carried 2 barrels of radioactive material. A group from the US Air Force was immediately dispatched to this desert area. After 3 weeks of searching, all that the US investigation team, led by engineer Harry Lapina and his group, found was the wreckage of Athena and a small amount of radioactively contaminated soil. The investigation team also concluded that no type of radio wave could exist here. They felt the silence of this place. When people couldn't communicate with each other via radio waves, mobile radios would emit the faintest whispers when turned on at maximum volume. In the silent zone, radio signals are disabled, turning the land into a dark area with extremely strong magnetic characteristics that reduce the volume of radio waves. After this investigation, the name Silent Zone quickly became known. Subsequent researchers flocked here to study these strange phenomena. Therefore, the Mexican government built a research complex in the Silent Zone. The main purpose of the complex is to study life, flora and fauna, and mineral components in the area. To determine what caused the signal loss, and a series of strange phenomena in the Silent Zone were recorded. Firstly, a high level of iron ore was found. Scientists discovered that this is a place where meteorite activities occur, increasing speculation that perhaps the unusual magnetic characteristics are related to minerals in the soil. More than 3,000 years ago, the Anasazi lived in the northern part, Silent Zone, which is now Southern America. Anasazi means ancient people. They were particularly interested in stars. Scientists have determined that in 1054 there was an explosion of a comet visible from Earth. The first drawing of this event was also found inside a cave in Anasazi. South of the Silent Zone, coincidentally, there are also cultures with deep understanding of astronomy. Could they have exchanged information with Anasazi in the north? Possibly, they used the Silent Zone as a place to meet and exchange information with each other. Did they find what they needed in the Silent Zone? Looking back at both Anasazi and Mesopotamian cultures, you will easily recognize their strong belief in visitors from heaven. But who are these visitors really? Both cultures describe large creatures, greenish-blue with white hair, unlike indigenous people living there. But strangely enough, it also matches their description of their gods. According to legend, visitors from heaven introduced themselves to indigenous people, and who knows, these visitors still introduce themselves until today. There have been reports about UFOs in the Silent Zone over the years. On October 13th, 1975, Ernesto and George's couple drove a pickup truck into the area to collect strange-shaped stones and unusual fossils. While searching, suddenly, a desert storm appeared under heavy rain. The surrounding sand areas quickly turned into swamps and caused their vehicle to get stuck, with no way out. While struggling to get their vehicle out of the mud, they thought two people approached. They waved at them amidst the rain. Two individuals with unimaginable height looked strange, but did not show any signs of danger, offered to help Ernesto and George. They said, "You two return to your vehicle so we can push from behind." Before the couple could realize it, their vehicle had escaped from being stuck in sand. The husband hastily jumped out of his vehicle to thank them, but those two creatures were no longer there. Strangely enough, those strangers did not leave any footprints or signs on the ground. In addition, forest rangers near this area say that they often see a strange kind of light moving at night like fireballs. They can change colors, hang motionless in midair, and then suddenly shoot up into the sky as fast as lightning. The most famous case of seeing a UFO occurred in September 1976 in Sepalot, the town closest to the Silent Zone. Around 9 p.m., town residents reported seeing a gigantic rectangular object hovering in the sky. Witnesses said the UFO was about 300 millimeters long, with flashing colored lights around the edge, and it emitted a strange sound that agitated dogs, causing them to howl and bark continuously. The flying object left after a few seconds and headed towards the Silent Zone. However, magnetic levels, legends of gods, or UFO sightings have been enough to prove that a space gate exists. We still have one more gate to explore towards southeast Lima, Peru. Along Lake Titicaca is an area that makes all visitors curious. Indigenous shamans still come to perform rituals and pray at the stone wall on the highlands, like many generations before them did. This place is known as the Gate of Gods. You might find this gate quite puzzling because it really doesn't lead anywhere. It is located at an altitude of over 4,000 meters, is large and rectangular with clearly carved construction on the stone. Why would people make such a gate? Or simply, we just don't know how to go through that gate yet. Ancient Peruvian legend says that America was once unified under one ruler and a communal spiritual tradition. The character Aramumuru came from the ancient continent of Lemuria. This man is believed to have brought many strange technological objects, including a powerful solar disk. According to Peruvian tribes, after the continents of Mu and Atlantis were destroyed, a great king and priest appeared to help many primitive tribes. Thanks to his help, ancient tribes were able to build impressive megalithic temples that still exist in various regions today. Also, according to legend, the first great king passed through the gate using a special key, which is the golden disc that Aramumuru carried with him. According to this, he passed through the gate and no one saw this great king again. At that time, a shaman who witnessed the whole event told it to the tribes in the area. From there, the story was passed down through many generations. Pay attention to the detail of this king's golden disc. Scientists have examined the Gate of Gods and found a small round indentation in the middle of the gate. Some people speculate that this is where the golden disc was placed to activate the gate. Anyone who owns a golden disc can come to use the gate. It will take them to meet gods or call gods to them. Something really special must happen when the Gate of Gods starts up. This solar disc could be a high-tech device connected with extraterrestrials. It will help transport users to another space and then return easily. According to ancient astronaut theory, the Gate of Gods lies at the end of a space tunnel. This type of gate has the ability to connect with another area in universe or another spatial dimension. A gravity tunnel is a theoretical structure based on general relativity theory. So could it be possible that Earth's ability to connect space and time with another space and time in universe actually exists through a tunnel? If this structure is created, then between parts of universe far apart from each other, there will still be shortcuts. From there we can see gravity tunnels are an accepted factor in physics. Theories and ideas suggest that gates existing from ancient times could be true. Every day we find more artifacts or objects representing those who have passed through, strange paths or energy pathways. In this case, it's like ancient people not understanding technology, similar to how we are trying to grasp the operation of gravity tunnels. And is Hayumaka, or the Gate of the Gods, the endpoint of one of the systems used by ancient astronauts to approach our planet? Nowadays, visitors to the Gate of the Gods, witnessing its grandeur and mystery, often encounter strange phenomena, such as hearing the sound of a flute, laughter, or strange music. Some people say they have seen images of stars or pillars of fire, looking like two long channels along the threshold. An Australian tourist visiting this site said, "If you have a chance, come here." At first, I was a bit skeptical, but I really felt the energy emanating from it. The evidence in legends, recorded encounters, beliefs from various cultures, and even the remaining wonders make it hard not to doubt what ancient people could do. Where have these gods gone now? Why did they come here to help us and then leave without reason? Will they return in the future? There are so many more questions related to these distant extraterrestrial visitors that we have yet to answer. Hopefully through this History the Missing Part series, you have gained a new perspective on our ancestors from ancient times. Thank you for your interest and follow-up. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming journeys to explore mysterious truths on Facts 360 TV. Goodbye and see you again.